Chair Bybee
Here.
and Commissioner Hill.
Here. Thank you very much. We will then now move to the Pledge of Allegiance, and Chair Bybee, can you lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely, I never get to do this. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will now move to comments from the floor by the public. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. We will now move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes by staff of the agenda today? Okay, any changes that the board wants to see? Not seeing any, so I need a motion, please.
Move we approve the agenda that we're moving for.
Mr. Abelsor, thank you. And I'm looking for a second.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Bybee. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions by the board on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And we'll now move to the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 Executive and Legislative Committee. Did the board have a chance to review the minutes, and does the board have any questions about the minutes?
Madam Chair, I do have a correction
Yes.
to the minutes for September 25th, 2023. It lists the staff present, and it has Mr. Harris as the CEO instead of Mr. Larraguetta as our interim CEO. So correction to the just the part A of the minutes, correction.
Okay,
Remove
good
Mr.
catch. And is that a motion with your correction?
Yes, I'd like to move to accept the minutes with the correction.
Thank you. Looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Elzar. So we have a motion and second with a correction. Any questions on the motion for the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We're now moving into item E, our planning session. We are going to review, discuss, and prioritize the RCBA 2024-2025 President and CEO goals. And are you presenting to us, Mr. Larraguetta?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great.
Good morning. Thank you. For the record, Mike Larraguetta. I think as most of you know, the objective with the CEO president goals this next fiscal year is to really focus on quantitative goal. And so the senior staff has met several times, and we went through the different departments and came up with 9 total goals. Seven is listed here, but there's 2 under marketing that we felt were all quantitative based, with the exception of the employee survey, which is the last goal. We then weighted those goals accordingly based on how we felt they should be prioritized. So I don't know if the board would want me to go through each goal independently and go through the background. It's one of the reasons why I asked senior staff to participate today, because they really played a very significant part in coming up with the goals. And so if there's any questions, I wanted them to be here to represent their areas.
Okay, well, I'm looking to the board. Do board members have particular questions on the goals as outlined? I thought that the staff did a really good job. Of course, I have additional goals. I have no idea how we're gonna measure, so you're gonna love that. But we can talk about that after we go over the actual goals that you put before us today. But I thought you did a great job. But looking to the board, y'all have anything?
I don't know, maybe a high level. I mean, we've got all of this and there's a lot of detail in here, but maybe on each goal, kind of I'll go back to my airline 30,000 feet.
Sure.
Kind of just to highlight differences that you made. And I know we've got several factors, no bowlers, I mean, things that, and where we are right now, as far as, you know, what our business levels look like and how you kind of
Great.
determine. And then, and I guess on the one goal, I didn't know if that was brand new to community.
Community engagement.
Engagement.
Yeah, so that was, again, Mike Larraguetta for the record. If you remember during my interview process, one of the pillars that I really focused on was community engagement and educating the community through communication, transparency, and just getting in front of as many people as possible. So the team felt that having a target number of 20 for us to be out in the community, whether that is at a Rotary opportunity like we did with Sparks, or whether that is going to the food bank again like we did, but we felt 20 was a fair, good, aggressive number for us trying to achieve over the fiscal year. Okay, and that'll dive in. So if the board's okay, what I'd like to do is, like, the first goal I'll take, because that is very sales oriented. And then as we get into marketing on goal 2, I will pass the mic to Christina. And then Renee can speak to the facility revenue number that we came up with, and then Art on leisure, and then Courtney can bring us home on staff retainment and surveys, if that's okay with everybody.
Sounds great.
Great, thank you. Okay, so goal number 1, group room night goal. The overall increase is a 10% to the prior year. So the goal last year was around 238. One of the reasons why we increased this goal significantly was obviously because of the indoor track. So we have allocated 20,000 room nights into the sports team's goal for this next fiscal year. That being said, we also had a groups that come back every year we define as legacy groups. And we build that into the goals every year. One of the legacy groups under the sports team is athletics. They've been coming to Reno for years. Unfortunately, one of the athletics groups has decided not to return to Reno. So that was about a little over 8,000 room nights that we took out of the sports goal. So their net was about 12,000. Then what I did is I went in, as you can imagine, there's a lot of criteria that come under the numbers and how we determine the goal. I went and looked at production by territory between the 7 territories. The Northeast had a very good year, and territories tend to fluctuate based on what's going on in the world, based on flight availability and airlift. There's a lot of things that impact production by territory. So for whatever reason, the Northeast did incredibly well, and Northern California did exceptionally well. So those were the 2 largest increases. We increased the Northeast goal by 10%, and we increased the Northern California goal by 27%. One of the reasons why we did that with Northern California was based on groups that we had never defined as legacy before, and we're finding that they are repeating every year. So we moved those into the legacy bucket, which increased Christina Henschel's goal by 27% to prior year. Other than that, everybody pretty much went up about 5%. Industry average is 2 to 3% on an annual basis. We did see we're performing at a very high level this year. We're forecasted to finish around 307,000 room nights if everything comes to fruition in the last 2 months. And I think it's also important for the board to know that we clearly have 2 months left in this fiscal year. So us creating goals on numbers that aren't finalized is a little bit challenging because things can happen, things can cancel, things can come in the pipeline that we were anticipating. And that's also accurate for Mr. Jimenez's goal as well. But that's how we got to the 261. We think it's a fair, definitely an aggressive number, going up 10%. In the 7 years that I've been with the RSCBA, we've never gone up 10% year over year, but obviously a lot of that has to do with the indoor track.
Any questions on this first goal for the group nights by the board? Mr. Esquaga, please pipe up if you have questions as we go through this.
You know, the only thing, Alexis, thank you. And I hope, I don't know if I'm fully, I apologize for calling in. I think it's not as effective as being there, but are we, as we go over these goals, are we planning on today submitting this as a final approval, or are we going to, or does it kind of get, some of these get kind of worked? Because I do, to Mike's point, I haven't really seen the packet in front of me, but what is the kind of the will of the group today?
And Mr. Larragetta, you wanted us to approve this and go to the board, correct?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Kawaga, again, Mike Larragetta for the record, I think the goal was for the committee to today to vet these goals and make a recommendation to move them forward to the board. If the board wants to take a deeper dive into any of the goals, obviously we're happy to do that as well.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. And go ahead. I'm good with the first going through, and I'll put it back on mute.
Well, and I think if you, when you're looking through this again, if you have additional feedback, I'm sure that the team will take that in and make the changes before the next board meeting. So don't feel like this is the last
Perfect
opportunity. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like we can move to goal 2 for marketing.
All right, goal number 2 is paid media engagement. This is a shift from prior years. In the past, we have measured paid media impressions. And after speaking as a senior team and with Mike, we decided to move to engagement might be a better reflection of the of how people are interacting with our ads. And so impressions, you're just hitting the masses, but as we even spoke about in our last board meeting, engagement is really taking an action. So it's watching a video to completion, clicking on an ad, liking, commenting. We've defined what an action is here in the goal. And then we are taking that with the impressions and then setting the goal as what a percentage of people who saw our ads and the percentage of people who interacted and took action off of them. So we thought that was a better reflection of how the ads are performing than just simply putting them out into impressions. And so this past year, the fiscal year is not over yet. And so it's a little hard to predict the final number yet, but right now we're pacing to have a 3% engagement rate. And next year, we're looking to increase that to a 5% engagement rate.
And just to add to that, our intent as a senior staff was to establish goals that we truly cannot impact. It takes the consumer to have
Yeah.
a result in order to, instead of just clicking, right? So you'll see that through all the goals that we present today.
Madam Chair, a quick
Yes,
question.
absolutely.
So Christina, what are we doing differently? Because that's a big, and I super appreciate goals that are not just a given. I mean,
Yeah.
it really, we've got to all reach a little bit to get there, but to
Yeah.
go from 2% to 5% is more than double. What is different? Or what is it
So-
something you're factoring, or what are you doing differently?
Yeah.
that, you're feeling good about a 5% goal?
It is a big stretch goal, but we're looking at changing the way that our plan is being placed as well. So currently, with the goal of an impressions-based goal, our ads are geared towards impression. So we will make changes on our media buying strategy to make them more engagement-based. So that might be bigger brand partnerships, some like OTA buys, and then just things that are, I think, more direct to a conversion. And you'll see the next goal is even more based on conversion, but that's kind of our strategy going into this next buy, is to take a step back from that awareness-based buy and move towards an engagement-based buy as well. So
That
we're,
makes sense, because then you've got action. You've got.
we have more action.
If it's engagement, it
Yeah.
truly is that next step, which is the goal of ultimately getting people to come here to
Yeah.
talk about us, to increase the tourism here,
Exactly.
so the engagement. I appreciate that, because I think that's super important.
We do too. And that's with that strategy. Hopefully our strategy is effective, and that's why we see that big increase. It's like 66% increase.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully we are strategically placing, and that's why we think it is very achievable though too. So.
Great. Any other board questions on goal 2A? Not hearing any, so I think you.
All right.
Partner referrals.
Yes. The next one is more of a website-based goal. And if the board can remember, we are currently in the middle of updating our website. And so we are rebuilding a completely new website. And with that, we've also determined to set a rate versus an actual number. And so with this one, we are trying to increase the amount of users who are converting on our website. So these are users on our website who have clicked something that we have deemed a partner referral. Currently, we record partner referrals from our website. And this one, we're really hoping to have an increase in rate on how many users are converting. And so again, that engagement piece of, are you coming to our website? Is our website effective in driving a conversion? Or are you getting to our website and potentially going somewhere else? So that's the intent of this one. So we're hoping to go for a partner referral per user rate of we're estimating around 0.11 to 0.14, and that'll be like a 20% increase in partner referral user rate conversion.
Can you explain that number?
I know.
Now you see what I had.
And I'm not even, I mean, if I could.
I don't even know, what's that mean?
So it is it's the rate at which people are clicking. So a partner referral is someone who clicks to a hotel partner, a lodging partner. We have it all kind of identified in here, events, things to do. So someone who we have deemed potentially, hopefully actively looking to book a trip. If they are looking at lodging, we would like to think that they are far enough down the funnel that they're not in this inspiration phase anymore, and that they are looking at going to one of our partners' pages and booking a hotel. And so say someone comes onto our website, this is the rate at which they are clicking to one of those referral, I'm trying to think of another word, one of those referral links to one of our partners, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you have in here like best place to eat in Midtown, for example, and we have those articles on our website.
So we have those, but then in those, we have listed, for example, Stonehouse. And so if they're going and clicking on Stonehouse on a place to eat brunch, we're thinking, okay, they might be actively trying to plan a trip because they've gone down the funnel and are clicking on a partner that hopefully they are adding to their itinerary as they're building that out. They're not just willy-nilly browsing our website. Potentially.
Any other questions on partner referrals? Okay.
All right.
That's fine.
Earned media placements. Oh, actually, Ben, if you want to talk about this one, since it's in the,
Absolutely, thank you. Ben McDonald for the record. So we're looking at a rough estimate of about 10% increase on stories placed. A lot of this has to do with requests that we've had to do a little bit more local PR and community engagement outreach. So typically in the past, we do not count in-market placements toward any goals because that has not been one of our objectives. Our job PR-wise is to generate interest from outside of the area and activate those folks through our PR efforts, which are constantly ongoing. But I think this number is attainable as we start incorporating more of our PR outreach on a local basis, try to educate the community a little bit more on what exactly we do here at the RCBA and help tell those stories. So just a little bit of perspective, you know, again, we are always speaking with media. This is on a daily basis, but stories are never guaranteed. So it is a little bit difficult to forecast. I think the range for the last 8 years has been between 100 and I think at our highest we were nearing 300 placements, and that's just appearances of stories that we've engaged with writers on in various outlets. So the median number was 156, so right there in the middle of the pack as far as stories placed. So I think this is a pretty significant increase from that median number. It's about 37% increase, but I think it's definitely something that we'll have to work at. But I think it's attainable if we really make an effort on local PR and incorporate those stories into our goals.
The only thing I would ask is that you would document for the board local versus out of market.
Absolutely.
And then we can down the line, make a different goal next year for in market and out of market.
Certainly.
We don't know what that is right now.
Yeah.
Looking to the rest of the board.
So Ben, so have we not, is the difference because the goal is higher, is it different by adding the in-market where we did not add in-market before?
Yeah, we definitely tracked the in-market, but we didn't count those numbers toward
Okay.
any goals of any kind, whether it was impressions or, you know, PR value, things like that. We just didn't incorporate it into part of our mission, I guess, from a PR perspective.
Yeah, and I would agree with Commissioner Hill that seeing the difference of the two, especially as we're looking at more community engagement too, all of that, you know, kind of adds on to our awareness, our community engagement by actually tracking that so that we can see it, but that also makes your goal more attainable too. That makes sense.
Certainly.
By adding it, but then being able to track that.
Yeah, and we're at about 170 stories placed right now through April for the fiscal year. So I think we're gonna end up around 185, 190-ish in that range, but
Okay.
you never know, something could blow up. We could end up with 250. I really, at this point, I don't know.
Right. Okay, any other board members on earned media? Not hearing anything, so I think we can go to goal 3.
Okay. Mr. Jimenez.
Good morning. Good morning. Coming to you live from downtown Los Angeles. For the record, Art Jimenez, and this particular goal relates to tourism sales and room nights, and we're proposing to produce 634,110 third-party cash room nights for fiscal year 25. And then this criteria is going to be generated by 11 hotel properties that report in their third-party production each month, and production from, for example, online travel agencies or OTAs, retail, GDS, tour operators, et cetera. Again, 11 properties. And the rationale for this is that, again, as was noted previously, it's kind of hard to project where we're going to be for the end of the fiscal year, still being a couple of months out. But we've projected that we're going to wind up with 621,677 room nights in this channel in fiscal year 24. And historically, that represents about 25 to 26% of the overall cash room night mix for Washoe County. And so the 634,110 goal is a 2% increase from the projected year end of 621,677. And we went 2% traditionally during downturns. If we have anything coming up here between, election year, inflation, price of gas, etc., hotels tend to turn to this channel to mitigate any losses in any FIT or group declines. So that this represents a 2% increase. Any questions?
Listen to the board. And-
Art, I have a question.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Well, am I good to go?
Yep, go.
Art, I was just curious on, this is Stephen Esquaget.
Mhm.
Do the OTAs give you any forecast? I'm sure they're looking, right? They've got projection numbers they're looking at. Do they give you any insight as to what the Reno Tahoe market is? Are they booking less further out, or are they giving you any intel that way?
So a couple of things, Stephen. One is that throughout the fiscal year, each month we produce a report, and we've seen a decline in OTA room nights produced. And historically, as properties are doing stronger with FIT or group business, that channel tends to get adjusted down. We have met with the OTAs, we've met with several hotels, and what we're hearing is that search is down for the destination, and actually across the board, not just this destination. And they're not really projecting big increases into the destination for next year. And we anticipate that this channel will go up, as hopefully it doesn't go up, I guess, right? I guess that's the double-edged sword. But yes, Stephen, we have met with them, and they're projecting flat at best from what we're hearing.
Okay, so we're a little more aggressive than what they're saying at flat. We're saying we'll be up 2% in that segment.
Correct. And other
As a goal.
considerations. Correct. Other considerations for that is that, if things do go a little sideways, you will increase regional business between motor coach business. Also, right now, corporate travelers is really strong. And if you look at the stock market and everything going on, we don't anticipate that going down. So maybe that'll mitigate
Right.
Some of the other channels.
Hey, Stephen.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
If I could just, this is Mike Larigetta again for the record, if I could just add to your question with a comment, is that, we've also looked at the results for the last 6 months and what we're seeing in the trends. And unfortunately, the segment that is seeing the greatest decline is the FIT, for independent traveler, which obviously is the
Right.
most profitable channel outside the casino that we want for our hoteliers and stakeholders. But as you know, as a hotelier, generally when you see that FIT channel consistently show a trend of declining, that the hotels will look to the other channels, the third-party distribution channels, to make up that delta. So we're anticipating as we get into the summer that if FIT does not rebound, that there will be deals out there through the Expedias or Pricelines or whatever it may be, purely based on a response to the lack of FIT.
Got it. Thank you.
I think it's super admirable that we're projecting up for a lot of these sales goals, even though we're looking at a recession. So it just shows that the team is still working hard, and trying to find the business where we can. So that's great. Any other board members? Okay. We will now move to goal 4, facility revenues.
All right. Well, for our facilities, we're forecasting, or we're expecting to make about $6.4 million between the 4 venues. It is about $270,000 less than what we're making this year. Majority of that is there are no bowlers at the NBS. So we will do our best to make up some of that, but it will be very hard pressed for us to be able to make up all of that. So our numbers are based on what we have on the books as far as conventions goes, as far as big room night groups. And then the team that I have, we're like the filler, the 12 months in selling to local events, quick traveling events that come in that don't bring room nights. So based on what we have for the venues, we have convention center down slightly. We had this year 18 conventions. Right now we have 13 on the books that are guaranteed definite. We think 3 more will become definite. So we're down 2. That has given us, that's going to, because they're worth 40% of our revenues, that's a really tough, I guess, ask for the venue team. Because the majority of our events are about $5,000 to $10,000. Some are even less. So, and when you've got conventions coming in and bringing in $100,000 an event, it's a lot of work to try to make that up. So we think we're going to be a little bit lower at the convention center. Not much. I think it's $180,000. It's not much. We are flat at livestock. We are also expecting to go up a bit at the Reno Event Center with some more added concerts. And then NBS is down. But we did also add a sponsorship sales position, and she is actively selling, advertising, suites, sponsorships within the buildings. And she will be bringing in an additional $400,000. So that's how we came to the numbers. They're divided out by the different parts, the different departments that sell. So event sells ancillary revenue. That is anything from parking, internet, AV, facility fees with tickets, anything basically that can be sold once the event is on property. And then the sales team is sold based on event sales. And that's where we are.
Looking to the board on any questions on that? I do. Yeah, Ms. Bybee.
Yeah, so Renee, on the convention center,
Yes.
with the down 2 on our group room night events, in that number, is the track figured in? I know it's not till it doesn't come in till November or December, but what did do we lose other groups? The track should have added a little bit, or what is that difference of why we're down 2?
Can I help you on that?
Yeah, feel free, yeah.
So we've talked about this in detail, and it's a little bit of trade-off, to be quite honest with you, Chair Bybee, is that the track is going to obviously between middle of November and March generate room nights. Where Renee's team generates most of their revenue is on the ancillary sales or things that they're booking within 12 months. So taking that haul and a half away for those 6 months hurts her on her revenue streams that her team can generate, but helps us on the room night side. So they don't,
Yeah.
the track, it's literally, it's a favorable trade-off. You want the room nights, obviously, for the economic impact for the entire community. But in terms of having that hall available just to rent to one-off meetings or events, we're taking it out of commission basically for 5 months.
So does the track, each track meet that comes in, are there no ancillary?
There are concessions,
I would think
a
concessions,
little bit
but,
of rent,
yeah.
but nothing like on the AV side to where if she books a corporate piece of business and they're local, she might generate $50,000 to $100,000 in audiovisual and staging revenue. That's a very profitable segment for us. So it is a trade-off of losing that space for that time period, but we all still think that the room nights that are generated are more valuable than the lost revenue that we did in that
Right.
hall.
Do we have the potential, that just made me think when you're talking about audiovisual, is there the potential with the tracks that they would look at any broadcasting
You bet, absolutely.
of the meets? Because especially when you get, whether it's a US Track Association or Masters or definitely college or AAU, the bigger meets especially, a lot of times want to have, some kind of broadcasting for family, friends, and just the general track community.
The answer is
Is that-
yes. It's,
We're looking at that?
of course, and it depends on the meet, right? The type
Right.
of meet. So what we're finding, and Shelley Fine, Director of Sports Development, is going to be presenting to the board at the May 30th meeting with an update on the track. What we're finding in year one is a lot of those very higher end televised types of meets. They want you to go through the process first for a year and show us that you can, you really have an amazing world-class track, you have a world-class facility, and you know how to run a world-class meet. Then those opportunities will start to come.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
No other questions?
And we take any business, right? Like if
Oh,
it's
yes.
RV sales.
Yes.
I just see those at like other parking lots and I'm like, I hope we also try to go after that as well.
We do.
Okay.
We don't say no. If we
Right.
have the space, we will say no to no.
Okay.
We want everything we can get.
Yeah, cause I'm thinking like in the softer times, like there's other, folks that may want to use the parking lot for other things. And
Yeah.
just want to make sure we're
Absolutely.
open to that.
Yes.
And Renee and her team do a fabulous job, and I think I could be pretty confident in saying that when you see those events around town,
Yeah,
it's usually because we have said no.
okay,
Right.
They have come to us first, a lot of the RV, the hot
Okay.
tub shows,
Right.
we all see the commercials every weekend, right?
yeah,
Right.
It's usually because Renee and her team, or we have through the convention side filled the venue.
right.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Of course, you do an
It's
amazing job. And this may be a question for later, but, on the facilities, have we done studies to make sure that we're maxing out any other potential revenue that we could have on our facilities? Have we already gone down those paths, other than the sales side, which y'all do so well, but like and you're obviously selling sponsorship, which is a new thing
It's
for us,
new
which
and
is
huge.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know if we've ever done any of those kind of,
Well, yes, actually we have. So this
Mhm.
last year, we created our own splash page, right? So now anybody that comes in, if we have an event and they don't necessarily buy internet for the attendees, like for volleyball, right?
yeah,
So volleyball, all the parents that want to live stream their kids, or all the parents that come in that want to be online to share with, FaceTime, whatever. Because we have this splash page, they can come in, they can sign in right then and there, pay a fee, and then move on and enjoy the rest of the, whatever the event is. So that in itself, has been one of the larger hits, or not hits, but I guess additions to our revenues, because we have audio, visual, and IT are both the same. But with that, like just with the volleyballers alone, that brought in an additional, $100,000. And the volleyballers this year, because they did these 3-week in a row events, parking got maximized out, and I think we did like over $200,000. We've never made that in 3 weeks in parking. So we're always looking for things, but I think like Mike had said, if we continue to build the technology, that's gonna be where the money is.
right.
For sure. It's needed.
Yeah, so one of our goals, Commissioner Hill and I had a meeting with Mr. Brownie a couple of weeks ago, and that was really this subject of our conversation was to take this 600,000 square footprint of this convention center and make it the most advanced, modern, high-tech facility we can. Obviously, that's an expensive endeavor and it takes time, but we did send him, which I'd be happy to share with the board as well, what Trent and his team have done last year, what is on the capital, what you guys have seen for this year, and what is on our wish list moving forward.
Okay.
We know what we need. It's just prioritizing funding to get us there. But there are, to your point, there are convention centers out there that have revenue streams that we would love to have. We just need to have the equipment. to get there.
Right, you need us to support you with the capital.
Yep.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
yeah,
had one more. As we're looking at, because this has always been, I don't want to say, well, Achilles heel of the cost to run. So we're seeing revenue. So I know before I came on this board, the negative of our facilities, because we had all the costs to run it, and it was generating income, but how do we shrink that? Obviously, the facilities are what bring people here, so we're never gonna make a ton of money at the bottom line on our facilities because of all the expenses that we incur. But as much as we can now, you guys are doing a phenomenal job just in the 3.5 years I've been on this board of really amping up the use of every facility that we have. and maximizing that. Where do we stand? I see the revenues. How does that relate to what our expenses that we're estimating for the facilities, in this fiscal year?
So we've still managed to keep that ratio pretty decent considering the high cost of inflation and the fact that we are having to pay employees more facility worker level to recruit them because of our competitors at warehouses and things like that. So right now, year to date, we're at about a $6.2 million loss for the facilities, which is on par with it's actually a little less than what ASM was doing when they ran it, and they weren't up against inflation and the things that we're dealing with. So we're pretty happy with those numbers right now, but it is a struggle keeping the costs contained.
So it's still 6.2 million negative
Yes.
because of those expenses.
Yeah, which I mean, if you're looking back to like 2019 and ASM had an even higher loss, comparatively, we're still doing well with our ratio of revenue to expenses, but it's really hard to keep the costs contained. So-
Well, and then the more you utilize it, the more costs you have.
Exactly, right.
And you need more manpower, and then it puts more wear on it. So I mean, it's a little bit of a catch-22, but yeah, so we still are at -6.
We are still -6, but we're overall okay with that number comparatively, considering what we're up against.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions on facility revenues? Not hearing any, so we'll go to goal number 5, community engagement.
Again, this was, I'll take this one, thank you, Madam Chair. So this was, as we discussed earlier, this morning, an opportunity for us as an organization, not just senior staff, as an organization, to truly get out in the community, whether that is through local charities, whether that is through speaking opportunities, whether that is through partnerships. We also do partnerships in like our bowling day that we did for 4 consecutive months, where we partnered up with a local entity that were very successful, and we anticipate that continued success moving forward when we bring that back in July or August. And then also when we travel, a lot of times within our booths, we will partner with an organization. And an example is Holiday Showcase, where we would do ornaments. And if the meeting planner or the third party signs the ornament, gives us their information, then we will donate $5 to the charity that we are partnering for that event. And it's very well received. It's basically a way for us to acquire their information in a positive, gentle way. So it works really well. So that's the goal we established as a team for this year's 20 community engagements.
Okay, any board member
Good
questions?
question. So Mike, have we tracked before? Because we have been involved in the community. So how does this 20 goal compare to, do we track this the last few years?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I don't know if we have an exact amount. I can tell you from just experience, I don't believe we've been anywhere near 20 in the past. Yeah. I would bet we were probably closer to 10 at most. So we really want to push the team to get out there and do this. And marketing actually has done a good job of putting together a list of potential partnerships and opportunities that we could have. You know, the things that we were doing, cleaning the park, the food bank, they're great. And those were consistent, but we never took that next step to get more engaged. And even when we came and spoke to the Structural Read Club, that had never been done in the 7 years I've been here. So those are the opportunities we're looking at.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think this is a super important goal. I think when I very first got on this board and I went to the convention in Baltimore, and they kept talking about community, because the people who live in your community don't understand why it even matters. Why does tourism matter? Why does the RCBA matter? Who are you and what do you do? And that your awareness of the community to understand truly from what we provide with the economic impact, not just room nights, but the full economic impact of gas stations and restaurants and bars and shopping and things that they bring, really connecting to the community to make sure community understands and values, and then they can help be, and I think this is I love it being a goal. I think that to measure that and see how we do in the community. And then you've got all those people that also help promote. So there are marketing, right? There are marketing people, when they realize what we're doing, I think it just makes sense. Thank you for adding them.
Any other board members? I was thinking this could be a new goal, but maybe we could add to this idea of government affairs, because I think that there's opportunities for us to engage in the legislative session. And I know that, you know, Lake Tahoe has been, top of mind with a lot of those discussions, and we're part of that destination stewardship, which I think you should get credit for on this engagement, because that's community engagement, is RSCBA being at that table. And I think that's a big deal. But I was thinking even this idea of, just one example, Mayor Sheeby focusing on the river. The river is a part of, you know, a destination and making the destination magical. We obviously are, we don't have a ton of funds to be dedicating to river restoration efforts, but maybe helping with, I know that there's complaints about that $2 surcharge, maybe, you know, advocating for what that could be to help with other resources, and kind of being at the table for those meetings instead of being talked about being at the table, you know what I'm saying, the RSCBA being at that table, and I think you're already doing it, but just maybe adding that idea of government affairs. But I think, you know, at least the goal of 20 community activities, that's almost 2 a month, that's a lot for you, Mike, to do, and I'm sure the team will be out there doing it too, but I think this is very good.
Thank you. Great idea.
Okay, any other board members? All right, we'll go to goal 6, staff retainment.
So during the period of time when we outsourced the facilities, we had overall low voluntary termination rates. Voluntary terminations are people that choose to quit the organization, pursue other opportunities, things like that. So now that we're employing a larger range of positions and a lot more employees, we really want to make sure we're keeping an eye on those voluntary termination rates. So this goal essentially has managers keep in mind that the hiring that they're doing, just really being more thorough in the recruitment process, has us focus more on staff morale and retention. We have a lot of costs involved with hiring new employees. We have onboarding, training, things like that. So we just really want to be mindful of employee satisfaction and retention with this goal.
Absolutely. Any board members?
I appreciate that, Courtney, and Mike, because I think we forget in any industry, you know, whether it's this group, government, airlines, private industry, you forget when someone quits, what that costs, how much cost is invested in every employee from every level. So training and onboarding and the cost, you know, you're losing information, you're losing experience, and really, and then trying to build, keeping people here so that they have a reason to stay
Exactly.
and to continue to rise up if they can. Builds a stronger organization, but I don't think most of us really think about just that turnover rate and what it means. I know my husband in the casino industry, they deal with that all the time. And really what a cost it was and how it just felt like trying to keep up. And then hopefully too, what will help is that we move past the post-pandemic time where you couldn't find anybody to work because they weren't working during the pandemic. And so I'm hoping we're kind of coming out, and I don't know if you're seeing on the HR side, people have kind of from a year ago are big time all of a sudden realizing, well, shoot, there's inflation and I can't sit home forever and need to work. I mean, you guys kind of seen a shift.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we
How many
way more
people-
applicants across the board, and
Good.
yeah, we have a lot bigger pool to choose from now, which is good for us.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, the team, Madam Chair, to this point, thank you for those words. We appreciate it. This team specifically is, of course, you've seen what we have done to address COLAs and merits and the bonus program that we presented to the board last board meeting, Courtney did. But in addition to that, we're all focused in creating culture where people really enjoy coming to work and they feel important and recognized and appreciated. And the team's doing a really good job with that.
And that's appreciated. Thank you.
Any other board comments? I follow some of your staff on LinkedIn and they seem to love their jobs. So that's really very cool. And thank you for making that a priority. It's a great goal. Moving on to goal number 7, staff surveys.
Yep, absolutely.
So we want to use this survey to determine a baseline for current overall employee satisfaction and engagement. We have a unique challenge with operating for very different venues, having employees at this location. So we just want to use this survey to learn more about what's going well, what we can do better, and how we can build a cohesive culture among all the locations. Once we complete this first survey, then we can set some metrics to improve upon and each year have goals on what specific areas to improve on.
That's great. Do we do, staff-wide trainings that everyone goes to, or?
So we're in the process right now of implementing for all, and Courtney, help me if I'm wrong here, but for all new hires, we go through an extensive onboarding and OSHA training through our new safety program. And then we have a goal by the end of June to have every employee in the organization go through and get OSHA certified. And then we will have our safety manager come and present the results of that training at the we're shooting for the July board meeting.
Great,
Really important.
yeah, absolutely.
And I can just speak towards the fact that they also have planned in place other types of training, like harassment discrimination training for management, overall management training related to how they manage their employees, and here are the policies, and here's how we follow those policies. So those are in process with.
That's great, and I know that they create some togetherness of staff if you can bring it down physically. It's hard to do. I know a lot of them are online and, however you get them trained, you want them trained, but it can create some community if you're bringing together people from different departments to learn the same thing. So thank you for that. Any other board members? Yes.
Do we have past surveys to refer to, or is this a new thing?
I think the only surveys we've ever, since I've been with the organization, there was what were they called, Molly?
So, two CEOs back, so Mr. Zalone did have, Best Places to Work, the RCVA participated in that, did receive a Best Places to Work finalist, I think, at that point. And then after that, there wasn't really ever, there's much discussion about it, but there was never any true appetite for these type of engagement, surveys. So I do not believe that they were done since that time.
Are we going to go to an RFP for a vendor, or are we gonna do this in-house?
So our plan was to do it in-house. We have access to research through like the Society of Human Resources Management, places like that, but for question banks, narrow it down to what we think is relevant for our organization, then we can administer it in-house.
And I will tell you, if you do participate, it is a free service through NHRA, which is the RCVA participates in. For the Best Places to Work, it is done via a third party that comes in and does that analysis that way. So that is another option in addition to whatever's happening.
So one more question, on the data, are we planning, are we gonna try to do the baseline and then a follow-up, so twice a year? What's the hope with how we administer it?
Our original thought was to do annually for this first one, and then from there gauge. I mean, if we see a lot of areas where we need to improve upon and we need to put in some targeted procedures in place or new protocols or things like that, then we might follow up sooner. If we find that things are going well and there isn't some dire things we need to improve upon, then maybe it's less frequent. So we really just want to establish a baseline of this and get a feel for what people are feeling at all different levels of the organization.
Any other board comments or questions? Good. Great. That is the full list of goals. Do board members have additional goals or anything that they want to add? And Mr. Esquaga, I haven't heard from you, so I just want to make sure. Do you need anything?
No, I'm good. I'm going to wait till I get a chance to kind of review it closer and have better communication. So no, I'm good to move on though.
Yeah, I'm just really impressed that we're still pushing to try to increase room nights even with the dour look of the people have of the recession, but maybe it won't hit our community, Did you go to the EDON, economic forecast? It looked very good. So that's very helpful. I'm wondering if there is an opportunity. I know that the board has asked about this, and maybe this doesn't go in goals, but it's a broader discussion with the board about working towards these goals, or working towards even like other goals such as additional revenue, finding additional revenues with existing resources, or, having these kind of bigger discussions. And I know the board has asked for that, but I don't know if that would be a goal necessarily, or just something that we need to agendize on a future board agenda.
I think one area we could possibly incorporate that is the annual plan.
Great.
Within
Okay.
a standpoint, and then if the board requests us to present the annual plan, there's been years where they have and have not, correct, right? Sometimes we present it, sometimes we have not, but that's one area where we could do it, or we could agendize it on a future board meeting to talk about it. I mean, I know we've had the discussion a few times in the past, and I think it's important, it's just we, for whatever reason, haven't made it a priority.
Yeah, it's like, I think the board, what I've been hearing is a need to have this kind of bigger question of, all right, yes, we have the business of the day, but where do we kind of want to go as a board and try to support and lead as a region? So maybe that could be an annual plan discussion, or even happen in a committee and go out to the board. I don't know, but happy to support that effort, however you want to see that happen.
Well, and if I may, Ben McDonald, for the record, we're entering our third year of a 3-year strategic plan.
Okay.
So at some point in the very near future, we're probably gonna have some workshops and start working on deciding. The board will have to lay out, do we want a longer term plan? Do we want a 2-year, a 3-year, you know, and start laying out some of those goals and initiatives like you're discussing. And I would assume that's gonna probably have to happen, you know, early in the next calendar year,
Okay, great.
January, February-ish.
Any other board comments on these goals? Not so. Yes, Mr. Abelsar.
Are we making a motion to recommend this to the full?
Yes, yes. Is that your motion?
Madam Chair? We recommend, the 2024, 2025 present CEO RSCBA goals to the full committee
We had minor changes, but
with the edits and changes as recommended.
great. And do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, everybody. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay.
Aye.
And I think that, yes, that carries unanimous. Do you feel good with the direction we've received? Great work.
Gonna be a challenge, but we will do everything we can.
I
to get
know,
there.
wow.
And just to add, again, Mike Largetta for the record, and I should have said this at the beginning, but really appreciate the team engaged through this entire process. And, you know, part of this whole unified effort that we're trying to do here as a team, as an organization, is that their goals will roll up into my goals. So the reason why they spent so much time coming up with these goals and made them so challenging is because they're probably going to be their goals as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we're all working together on this, so I think these are something to strive for and be really proud of as an organization. So thank you everyone for your work. Okay, we're going to move to item F, board matters. This is our CVA review and discussion of the current unsolicited proposal policy. And we have the old one in front of us and the new one. And Mr. Esquaga, I don't know, you have been, did we email Mr. Esquaga the old one? Okay, cool. All right, so I don't know, is Mr. Larangata, are you presenting on this?
I can definitely tee it up. Mr. Kennedy can jump in, the team can jump in as well. So, as part of the board's process of prior meetings, there was a discussion and request to evaluate all of the RCBA board policies, which need to be evaluated and updated. It's been a while. One of the particular policies which was in play was the unsolicited proposal policy and guidelines. And after our last board meeting, I requested through some of the board members the opportunity for senior staff to take a look at this policy, modify, rewrite, start from scratch. Because we really felt that there was importance for this policy to be evaluated prior to the time that it would take to evaluate all policies of the RCBA. The purpose is to basically reduce the number of requests that come to the board for sponsorship and or the opportunity to present in our board meetings. And the team has done a fabulous job, specifically Courtney Jager, in taking the lead on this project of presenting a modified, updated plan that we think really provides some structure and guidance as to how these requests would come in, how we can control them, and then how we get them in front of ultimately the board if the staff feels that they are warranted to do so. And so we've taken a stab at rewriting this policy, and I'm biased, but I think it's pretty good.
I agree. The only thing that I would add is that this is just because I used to be a staff member, is a form that people fill out, because just for example, the fire, gentleman who came to us, they had a general budget, but it wasn't broken down so we could understand it, but a form would force them to break it down. And obviously, we wouldn't even see that because it's under 10, their request, but that's what one thought I had, but I looked to the rest of the board on comments or questions.
So maybe, because this is like completely different, shifted completely differently from what it was before. Was it ever used before? I know in my 3.5 years, I don't recall anything coming in. Well, we did have some things that were unsolicited. We had at the bowling center, we had what was the name of that? The haunted house.
And Miss America, right? Or
Miss America,
Yeah.
you're right, Miss America was unsolicited, so some of these have come in, but I don't remember ever referring or even knowing, till Mr. Kennedy let me know, that there is an actual policy
Yeah, I think
here. How, kind of give us a little maybe historical perspective?
I will try. So Mike Larragetta for the record. To your point, Chair Bobby, I don't think anybody was aware that this policy was in play, or if they did, if it was ever truly followed. I think the request would come through individual board members. They potentially might have made it to the board level to the request of you to put it on the agenda, and then here we were.
Mr. Kennedy, do you have anything to add to it since?
Yeah, I can say
Since you knew the policy was here.
when it was adopted in 2019, it was adopted in response to, there seemed to be some momentum with some unsolicited requests coming in. And so the board said we want to put a policy in place. We did that. I don't know that we received a lot of those requests after the policy was put in place, and we haven't seen any in a while. And then they sort of started recurring again. The past policy give a lot of discretion to the board and the chair to just sort of proceed how they saw fit. So they could sort of require everything to run through the policy, to run through the staff evaluation, to do the, the sort of weight the factors, or it could just go to the board directly. And I think that was the practice. It just, those requests just started going back to the board, and then we got to the place we're at now where we're seeing more of them and looking to put a policy in place. And as part of that, we talked about when we sort of do this rework of the board policies, creating a place, a document where new board members will see all these policies.
Right.
Instead of just sort of passing them and then they go into a file, and then sort of only people with institutional knowledge know they exist. And just doing a better job of adopting these, but actually putting them in play by making sure everybody's aware that they're out there.
Anyone else? Yes?
So I absolutely.
No, I just think,
Go ahead, Stephen.
oh, I'm sorry, this is Stephen. I'm just looking forward to the further discussion. I think we definitely have a need for this, kind of giving a little tighter parameters. So this makes a lot of sense. I just think we ebb and flow a little bit, and I think tightening this up to where we can handle requests in kind of a consistent fashion. And I look forward to kind of forwarding this to the full group.
So I think it would be really wise to have some sort of standard form that anyone would fill out, document it all as a way to present for your review. I do have a question on the second page. The first bullet or dash starts with an unsolicited proposal cannot be for an event that produces room nights. Those events have to go through a separate fund.
So Mike Larragetta for the record, so they're actually, with this addition, there are 3 funds. So this fund, we will present to the finance committee on Friday and then the board on May 30th, that we've allocated $50,000 within the executive CO budget for all requests under $10,000 for the staff to decide whether that moves forward or not. We have also allocated another $350,000 for those opportunities that come through senior staff that we feel are valid and meet the criteria that we've established, bring those forward to this committee, and if they deem that it moves forward to the board, then so be it, then it would go in front of the board as part of that process, and then those monies would come out of that budget. There's also the special event fund within marketing, which we all met last week and went through all the applications and made recommendations on allocations for those requests. And then that will get presented to the board. And then the third fund, which is the new fund, is a special event opportunity fund, which is the new events, which is primarily for room night driven events. And that's Valerie Segura's area in my area.
So I guess I'm struggling. Isn't what we're supposed to do with all this is produce room nights? Like,
It is, I think the reason why we were so restrictive in that language is because we know we are going to get requests that touch tourism, but may not produce room nights. And so we would hate to walk away from, promoting tourism to the region, or in the best interest of, like, let's use an example. The River Rangers, right? If the River Rangers was brought forward, that isn't, if this board decided to allocate funding through this process for that event, it's not directly going to generate room nights because we clean up the river, but we know in the general, from a general discussion, it is going to promote tourism because people are gonna feel better about coming to Reno on a safer, cleaner river. So it's difficult. It was very difficult to write language for this.
yeah, so I'm interested in Stephen, if you're willing to chime in on this, just simply like, I hate language that's narrowing.
Mhm.
Like, do we have to state that this $50,000 fund can't go to anything that might produce a room night? Because there might be something that fits there that subsequently
Right,
produces.
for
a
the
room night.
NMA, their presentation to us, that is going to be producing new room nights. But it doesn't fit into the special event marketing fund, right? Yeah, I see what you're saying, Mr. Alblazar. So,
It's easy to, we can modify.
okay,
Well, and I would agree with Mr. Ablasar, because I've got it highlighted right here. Cannot be for an event that produces room nights. I think that does like lock us up too much, and really the opportunity fund is a whole different animal. I mean, I think our subcommittee, the special event subcommittee that created that opportunity fund was really with the goal of finding the opportunity to bring in the bigger events, to bring in something new, to bring in something that wasn't here on kind of a grander scale, on a bigger, which is why we put the money into it that we have, is that, the availability of funds to bring in for Valerie to find something bigger that hasn't ever come here. And obviously would produce room nights for the opportunity fund, but I kind of look at the unsolicited. And I guess the haunted house would probably be kind of in the middle there, because the haunted house I looked at it being local, but yet it wound up, they had people traveling in.
And
They
and
came
they
in
did,
from out of the area.
they did submit a request to the special event. So that's the other, so that fund too, those are
For the
tied to
market.
room nights as well.
Yeah.
Right, so they did submit a request this year for funding,
Mhm.
and we did.
them in the past
out of
that program as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so are we on this, so for the marketing, the special events marketing program, we're not, people can't double dip,
No,
I guess is
they
what I'm
cannot.
saying. If they want to go for that, and that, that we give them, the marketing is what we're doing on that. And this unsolicited, it's like our firefighters, it's like the haunted house when they came to us. It's like the music festival.
And that was
Looking for money.
kind of the reason why I believe we used this language or recommended this language, is because we have two other funds that are directly tied to room nights. And we know that we are gonna get requests that aren't directly tied to room nights. But
Question on those two other funds, I mean, are we marketing those funds as opportunities for events? So they know about those funds?
they do, just like as I told you, I was in Las Vegas this weekend scouting an event. And in the meeting we had with them on Friday, we were very clear that if they would consider relocating that event to Reno, we would provide them some seed money.
But we don't market this unsolicited $50,000 fund.
It's brand new.
It's new, but I don't think we want to market that.
No,
Right?
it's like the city has an unsolicited public art fund.
Yeah,
And it's because staff like,
Just in case.
yeah, and some of the opportunities are great and others are not
Yeah.
a good fit. And you just had to fill out the form and we present it to the public art committee, and if they had a problem with it, we would move forward, you know, to the Arts and Culture Commission.
I don't want to limit you as staff.
Yeah.
In this, it is a smaller fund, but we never know what might come, and I think that phrasing is limiting to your decision-making. About it can't be for room nights, I think that's
Yeah.
extremely limiting.
Well, and I think, okay, let's be real, the air races, they would get marketing money and they would get cash from us, right?
They just get marketing, the special event.
Just special events, so they didn't get any additional cash, so that, the NMA's request is kind of unique and. Have we ever, I thought we gave them cash.
So the prior administration had allocated funds, in total amount of $57,000, I believe, right? For the four entities that we just
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
gave money to,
Mm.
for no particular reason, kind of grandfathered in. So we have eliminated that fund, those monies, and those entities would now have to come through this process
Okay.
to submit a request.
So could we word it, because I'm still where Eddie is on this, can we instead, can it not carry the weight of, when we're considering other, like, the opportunity fund, like your marketing, special marketing fund, you weigh the importance of the room nights? Can we have it with a minimal, that it could, because any unsolicited, you know, our firefighters aren't gonna bring a ton of room nights, but they're gonna bring some.
Yeah.
So because they bring some, does that knock them out of this? And I don't think we should knock anybody out
Yeah.
that might bring, but it's not on the scale of how you weight, the criteria and the evaluation. Can it have a lesser impact without saying, no, it can't produce room nights?
Yeah, we were just trying to, I think, to designate the three funds being different, but to your point, I mean, if the Boys and Girls Club comes to us and says, we want the RCBA to buy a foursome in our fundraising event, golf tournament, it would go through this process. You could probably say, oh, somebody from out of town's coming in and staying in a hotel for this event, so now there's room nights, so now we can fund it. We just didn't want to get into that.
No, but I get that. I get where it's not, it's different than the other funds.
Yeah.
But I think rather than worrying about restricting anybody out of it, if it was a very, you know, it was not one of the top criteria that you considered, that all these other criteria that you're
No, I agree. And-
listed in here can help staff if it's under 10,000, can help the board if it's more. The other criteria is listed and I think kind of covers that, and the room nights would be low on the list, but not prohibited.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
I
can
would feel
definitely
comfortable.
modify it. And the good news is it still has to go through senior staff for evaluation, so we're gonna make the decision on whether to move forward.
Yeah, it could be like not necessarily,
Right.
maybe.
I just
Mr.
don't think-
Kennedy had a thought.
Yeah, just to maybe give everybody some comfort. So the very last provision of the policy talks about the ability of the board to basically do what it wants. So I think the idea with the room nights is trying to create buckets and create
Mark on that.
the process.
You can disregard it.
We have that one too, Ben, thanks for bringing that up.
If you get a policy, or if you get a request that doesn't cleanly fit within one of the three buckets, but everybody decides it's something that can be
Yeah,
funded, you can always do that. So we're not precluding future event funding. You always have that discretion as a board, so I just want to point that out.
So, appreciate that, Ben. I would just encourage, like, I don't think that whole bullet needs to be there. I mean, you're tying your hands for no reason in decision-making. You all have final say through this process. If we create a standardized form in some round, like some way, you get to see it. If it indirectly or directly creates room nights, great, like, who cares? Like, if it doesn't have anything to do with room nights, that's fine, that's what this was intended. I think it limits you all, and I wouldn't wanna see that, and to Ben's point, since you brought it up, I actually struggle with that last, policy. I feel like the last thing we wanna do is take this fund, which is at their discretion, and they're making decisions, and then say, hey, as a board, we can override any sort of
But we can.
procedures.
We really can.
We could do that at any
Yeah.
point, right?
And they do.
But you're right, you're right.
I don't know why we
should
need
stick
it
to our
in there,
policies.
right? Like, if we want to, we could. At anything. Do we need a policy that says that? Because I think what we want to do is create a nice, like, the whole goal of this is that we just have standardization. We have an expectation of when the firefighters come, perfect, it's this, fill all this out, goes to you guys. We don't have to see it, deal with it. They come back to us and say, look at this great opportunity. This is our recommendation. Like, I guess what I'm afraid of, Alexis, is I don't want, 10 competing projects. And those projects come to all of us as board members, and now we're all here saying, well, I think we should waive this rule because, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want us to get into that.
Mhm.
If I can respond to that, so I think the idea with that provision is to make clear that if something comes along that everybody agrees is a good idea, the board doesn't get tied up in this policy. And also to make it clear that if the board makes an award to an unsolicited request that doesn't go through all the steps or doesn't check off all of the marks, but the board decides sort of in its discretion that it's worth something to fund, that the board isn't sort of open to challenge by somebody that's unhappy with that funding, that says you have a clear policy in place and you ignored it and you funded something improperly. So I think that's what we're trying to get to. Maybe we can massage it to make it, you can, for good cause, or,
Or it could say, this is the best practice adopted by the board, however.
you always have discretion. That's the point we're trying to make.
Right.
And to me, there's a better way to say it.
So, I'm splitting hairs because either way, because in our board rules, we
Yeah.
can waive any rule that we want
Oh my
and do whatever we want.
Yeah.
So I just don't think it needs to be there, and that other dash, I don't think it needs to be there either. Up to you guys.
So staff massage away and we'll see what comes to the full board. Any other board comments on this?
I had a question on other, second to last page. 1, 2, 3, the fourth one. Just wanted clarity because I wasn't following what that bullet point was. Unsolicited proposals on the Finance and Facilities Committee agenda or an RCBA board agenda without the above processes and procedures being followed. I was losing.
I should say,
I lost
the proposals cannot be placed on the agenda, so we just want to make sure that things don't get placed directly on the agenda without going through some sort of process.
So it's,
Yeah, we'll modify that.
Just missing a word.
Yep, just missing word.
okay, I figured it was kind of, I was losing where the train of thought was. So just that,
But there cannot be placed without going through a process.
okay, cannot place, okay, perfect. Just clarity on that. And one thing I do, and I appreciate us delaying this meeting so we could add this today, is that, like Ben had mentioned, with more of these, and we don't know, how many more will walk in the door. And some have just come to the board meetings. They haven't even come to us individually. Some have just shown up to the board meetings looking for support. And I get that, but I think it really setting this up allows us some of that, the processes here. People have to follow it. I like absolutely a form to fill out, but I like being able for senior staff to take those smaller ones and not for the board, I just I like some guidance here and because it's hard to say no, whether it's your project or Eddie has something, or I have something, or some board members don't bring anything ever. I think this is a cleaner process for sure, and gives some guidelines so that people coming in that are looking for funding for, even something under $10,000, and you guys can assess if that's something that follows all of these, that we're able to do that, and it doesn't put the board in the position sometimes we're in, that is awkward, that we're looking at, and some of them smaller, some big. And the museum, it's huge. TART funding that we just did, I mean, and of course, now we're in a position with what the finances are looking at and no augmentations, puts us in a different position that there's not the money that we can fund, so much. So on this one, Mike, is the total 50,000?
For anything 10,000 or less, we have 50,000.
But, okay, so the total is 350 is what you're budgeting?
50 and then 350, so 400 total.
Okay, 400, so 50 that can go in 10,000 increments to executive, and then the other three, so 400 total. Okay, and are we good budget-wise for that, for this upcoming year? I know we're doing Budget Friday.
Yeah, we do have it worked into the current year budget, so
Okay,
we're good about that.
and then the other two at 500. Opportunity Fund and the marketing.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question to Charlene's point? I think that's really important on the budget. Like, should we add something that says once funds are exhausted, we are set until next fiscal year? Because, I mean, we're sort of in that weird spot where, like, oh, can we use our contingency fund? It's called something else, but move money around, like, to try to make things fit. We want to be in the business of doing that, or should we say when funds are exhausted, please? What do y'all think? I mean,
Well, here's how like my frustration with the staff, you're perfect, but when things come to our county board, the staff knows where the money is gonna come out of. So typically, it's just a decision, are we gonna do this or not, you know? And I feel like when it comes to our board, it's like, well, board, do whatever you want. Of course, we're not as familiar with the budget process, so it would be helpful to be like, we don't have to do this ad buy, if you don't want to, or, you know, we thought we'd pull it from here, you know, here's some of the thoughts we had, like 10 from this, 10 from that, I don't know, but it sounds like you have a budget for it, so we don't need to worry about it, the budget's exhausted, we move on, and we can't cry about it. So I think it's a smarter way that you've done it, instead of us pulling from, because that's where the contention is.
Yeah.
Even if projects may not happen and people come in under budget, which we found happens with our staff all the time because they're so prudent. So I'm with you. I think we have to like keep it in the budget. So yeah, if there's a statement that we want to put of like, there is a budget for this adopted by the board. If we exceed the budget, where it can't be reviewed, but we'll see next year.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you do that, what it would be really helpful as we move into the year, we have the 350 that is in the budget that we'll get to approve, say for this fund. If we get a couple requests that come through staff, you know, up to your 50,000, we're updated on, yes, we spent 30, we spent 50, but funds available. So by when it comes to the board and there's 350 in there, and the first one comes, obviously we've got 350 in there, but as we possibly grant some of those requests, those proposals, if we knew when it came to us in April or May, that this is the request, these are funds available in that, helps us obviously make a decision, because we're not gonna go above that 350.
I think what might take care of that for us is anything over 10,000, whether senior staff says yes or no, we're gonna take that to the finance committee. At that time, we can
Yes,
share with you what's left.
Where it needs to go, yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, and maybe just when it comes to the full board, you know, FYI, finance has seen it, this is how much is available in the fund, this is what the request is for, to help everybody in making that decision, because obviously if they're asking for more than we have, it's a no.
Mhm.
Or it's less.
Yeah, having it vetted, that was the other nice part of the policy, instead of committee, that's it. Yes.
The mission statement for our CBA is different in both documents. Have we changed our mission statement? Okay. So this is an old mission statement.
Because it was the 2019 version. Yeah.
So what is identified on the second page to attract overnight visitors to Reno Tahoe while supporting the sustainable growth of our communities? That is our full mission statement.
Mhm.
It is.
It is. And that was, Ben, that was from our,
Yeah.
the last strategic plan
Correct.
that we drafted, the 3-year strategic plan that we're moving into.
Mhm.
It was rewritten, and so 3 years ago, when we rewrote the strategic plan.
Mr. Squaga, any comments on the unsolicited proposal policy? I'm not hearing any. Okay, any other comments from the committee?
What's next? Where does this, do we have another review or do we
Let's go to the board.
go to the board?
Do you want us to make the modifications that were discussed today and then take that to the board?
I mean, if there's a motion for that, but I think that that's what we should do, you know. Discuss what you want to do on the 2 items that Eddie brought up and then add that budget piece, yes.
Well, and I really want some, like a policy on the form.
Right,
Yeah.
Something about that form that, you know, whether it's a website that someone just submits it through. Cause it'd be nice for us to just say, hey, here's the
Yeah,
website.
I know,
Here's
it is
something.
nice, yeah.
And we have that,
Yeah,
Here's a link,
Yeah,
and then it's out of.
and that exists for the special event marketing fund?
So do something for this.
We've taken a lot out of that
yeah.
policy and, process, and I think are incorporating it into the.
Great. So is that your motion, Mr. Applebaum?
Chair, I would move to, accept the recommended, updated policies on unsolicited proposals with the, changes on, do I have to identify what changes?
We can, or you could say it's discussed.
Do we know what they are? Cause I've already sort of
So
confused.
the form, you wanted to,
Eliminate the room night mandate.
yes, or change, massage it or whatever you want to do with whatever staff will work. And then, the eliminate or change, the board may just disregard this policy and do whatever we want, even though that is the purview of the board.
Maybe reference to main policy, but I also have the thing on exhaustion of funds too.
Yes, and then the budget, yeah, that there's a budget, and if it's gone, then we're not reviewing it.
No,
And, you know,
it's not as good.
we'll go back and watch the video
Okay.
as we.
The correction on the placing it on an agenda, that was the only.
Oh,
Okay, that's
yeah.
what it was.
So just clarity,
Fix that.
so it was just adding the word to clarify that one statement on the agenda.
As moved. or as
Okay,
Stated.
be all right, awesome. Are we looking for a second?
I will second the motion
Okay,
as presented.
any questions, on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. And I don't know if, Mr. Squire is still on the phone, but I know that that was, approved by 3 boards.
He texted and said that he dropped off.
Oh,
I am back on. Sorry about that. But
you-
honestly, I just assumed if you have the votes for it, I'll abstain. I wasn't really able to participate in the discussion as far as even what I could hear. So if you're good with that, you just put me as a abstention and we'll go from there.
okay, that sounds good.
We need to ask where you are.
Thank you though. Sorry about that. You know what? I'm en route from Salt Lake back to Reno. So when we moved the date, I had already committed to moving my daughter. I wasn't able to change that. So it's blowing hard somewhere out by Wendover.
Well, thank you for participating. We appreciate it. So-
I apologize.
No worries, no worries. We will now move to, comments from the committee members and or CEO, president, and looking to the committee. Any comments? Okay, Mr. Squaga, do you have any comments?
No comments. I'll see you. I was in and out. I know we have our finance Friday, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Great, see you Friday.
Okay.
Well, others will. And then.
Okay,
Mr.
but thank you for letting me join in.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate your support and thank you to the senior team for contributing to the goals and the policy.
Okay, great. And last, our comments from the floor by the public, Madam Clerk.
No public comment at this time.
Okay,
No problem.
then we are